Hello, good day, everyone. And today, what we're going to be focused on is reverse slash forward lookup zones. So, what in particular are reverse and forward lookup zones, right? So, essentially, starting with forward lookup zones, this involves querying the DNS server with a host name and its fully qualified domain name, right? If a record for the host exists, the server will return the host IP, right? Now, the reverse lookup zone is essentially the opposite. You query the server by entering a IP address, and if a record for the server exists, the server will return its host name and fully qualified domain name. Okay, so first things first, launch your client machine. I just want to show you all a visualization of the forward lookup zone, right? So, CMD, if you enter command prompt and enter NS lookup, right, followed by your host name, which in my case is JF test. Now, what we're performing here first is a forward lookup. Okay, so first enter your host name followed by the fully qualified domain name. For me, it will be JF test dot local, right, and press enter. You should see the IP address returned, right, and this is the IP address for the server GF test. Okay, now this should be configured by default as soon as you create your DNS server. Starting from the server manager, if you go into tools and go on DNS, expand on this here, and as you can see, the forward lookup zones has already been configured by default, right? But if we go into reverse lookup zone, we will have to configure the reverse lookup zone, right? Now, this is evident by if we switch back to the client side and enter the IP address, NS lookup, and the IP address for the server, which you can see is 192.168.0.1, and press enter. As you can see, we get a request timeout and it is not returning the host name and the fully qualified domain name. That is because the reverse lookup zone has not been set up. Okay, so in order to set up a reverse lookup zone, right, you go into Server Manager, go into Tools, DNS. As you can see, click on reverse lookup zone here, right click, go into New Zone, right, next, and just leave it. We're working with the defaults for now, so it will be primary zone, right? Just the defaults, don't have to change anything. But yeah, leave it on IPv4 reverse lookup zone, right? The only thing we want to set is the network ID. The first three octets, right, which will be 192.168.0. That will be mine, right? Because the ID for my this server here is 192.168.0.1. Okay, so click next, same defaults, and finish. Right? So as you can see, the reverse lookup zone has been configured. Okay, so after we created our reverse lookup zone, which can be seen right here, you can expand and just watch out for the pointer, right? As you can see, we have one already, but if you don't have a pointer towards the server, right, you have to go, you can go into the command prompt, right, CMD, and type in IP config / register DNS. And what this should do is give you a pointer towards your server, right? So what we can do now, go back to the client side, right? Which will be Windows 10, no, Windows 10 client, right? Which will be our Windows 10 client. Okay, and we can now run a reverse lookup. So NS lookup, and this time type in the IP address towards the server 192.168.0.1. And as you can see, after the IP address was entered, it returned our server name, right, our host name. Okay, now since you created a pointer, that pointer would only be exclusive to the our server, right? Whereas our clients will have to, when we set up our DHCP, they will be assigned pointers dynamically through the DHCP, right? So every time a client machine restart, which could be this Windows 10 client or our Vista clients, it will be registered within DHCP and assigned a pointer, okay? So we will get to that when we set up our DHCP and stuff along those lines. As it stands now, this will be the end of our video. Thank you very much for watching and goodbye.